And we are back for Real Talk. My second guest today is Marcos RISSI, and he has come in to just tell us what's going on in his life and where you are, what challenges you're facing, and if I can help today with our, whole resist and transform methodology. It's something I'm sharing with a few students to try to make 2020 great. So first of all, welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, how you feeling?
Thank you for the opportunity. Feeling good. Yeah.
Good, man. Good.
Really, really
tell us
happy
a little bit about you.
I think resistance is quite a theme at the moment. Okay. And also I had two major rock bottoms this year.
Okay.
Last year I had a health issue. I had to leave my career behind.
Okay.
So I think life is kind of teaching me that I need to break through resistance. The problems I am having is because of resistance, I think, also.
Right. Okay.
I mean, yeah, talking about resistance, I think
well, let's talk
what
about
I'm
that.
going through in life is because of resistance, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, we're about to
then,
start.
yeah.
We're about to start 2020, and I know
Yeah.
you shared that you had worked for about 11 years in the industry, and then you changed that job.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you look at next year, and 2020 is this pivotal year, and I know it's got a lot of pressure for a lot of people, and maybe that's good. But by the end of the year, what do you think you want to be, or where do you think you want to be in your life? What's that something that you're like, wow, I would be really happy if I could be there? What are some of the things that you want?
Well, I've been struggling for years, and that's why that's the thing I want to tackle, the issue of resistance in trying to make a start.
And what do you want to start?
Yeah.
That's the question, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you worked 11 years. I mean, you were working in hospitality with some famous royals and politicians.
Yeah.
Do you want to stay away from that industry?
No, totally away.
You want to get away, so you really want to change.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the biggest challenge you have right now? What's the biggest struggle to try to find what you want to do next?
Combining my skills, my abilities, what I like to do, to put it at service for, to make it available.
Okay, so you want to
I want to serve. I want to help people.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
And you have a background in service.
And then obviously be happy doing that. Yeah.
Okay, so you want to be happy serving other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, but right now you don't know where to start.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not good with starting. Yeah.
You're not good.
I've tried before many times and didn't make progress.
This is really powerful. All right, so if anyone's watching, a lot of people struggle with, is it procrastination? Is it perfection?
Yes, a lot of it.
A lot of that. Okay, this is something I've heard before and something I've done before. Okay. So like a lot of people here, including myself, struggle with perfection and procrastination. Yeah. I think perfection is procrastination in disguise. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a hard question. And I was asking a bunch of my students this last night on my business accelerator, because they're doing the same thing right now. They're struggling with perfection. Yeah. And they're like, Brian, I can't put the video out because it has to be perfect. And I had this kid on, his name was Michael, and I was like, Michael, why does it have to be perfect? Yeah. So that's the question I want to ask you. Why does it have to be perfect before you can do it?
Because I don't want to face failure.
Okay.
Because I don't want to...
What does failure look like? Yeah. Just tell me, what does one version of failure in your mind look like? Is there someone telling you did a bad job?
Shame.
Shame?
Yeah, blame.
Where does shame come from? Who's the first
Pride.
person you think? Okay,
Pride,
but who's the first
image?
Who's the first person that is ashamed of you that you think of?
Myself, I think.
You? Okay, who else? Parents?
Parents, family, yeah.
Family?
Friends.
Brothers, sisters, friends?
Friends.
Mom, dad?
Yes, acquaintances and people who knows me, yeah.
Is that, have your mom and dad been ashamed of you in the past? Have they ever been like, I can't believe you did that? That's horrible. Stop doing that.
Yes.
Okay.
Lots of judgment around.
Okay, when you were a kid.
My parents, towards myself. Yeah.
All right, so they're pushing you. It's not good enough, Marcos. You can do better. Grades aren't good enough. What's not good enough usually?
Yeah, loads of sort of judgment. Actually, not quite a positive way of pushing me. Yeah.
Okay, so judging what you do. All right.
Yeah.
And do you think that has bled into adulthood?
Very much. Yeah.
To where you don't want to do something because you're worried about being judged. Do you care about what your parents think of you now?
Well, not so much.
Not so much.
So I think I have to look at the past, but I have to make a move. I have to grow up. Yeah.
So logically, it doesn't matter what they think necessarily, but emotionally, it still does.
Very
so
much.
like the 8-year-old Marcos is in there thinking, oh, if I don't get this right, my mom and my dad are gonna like be ashamed of me, or my friends and family, and then you're probably transported back to those memories. Can you remember what that felt like when you were a kid?
Yes, yes.
How does it feel?
It feels like rejection, for example, and then if you think of failure, that's the thing we want to avoid, rejection.
Right, so it's like a double whammy.
Yeah, so rejection, also a little bit of abandonment, kind of judgment, and
All right.
it feels like issues with lovability, like I'm not being loved here.
Right, so people won't.
And then I want to avoid it in thinking of, being perfectionist, and
All right.
With the idea of the video you said, anyway,
So listen to what you're saying to me. Like repeat back again. So
issues with lovability. I have fears of being rejected, and not accepted, and
and not loved.
Not loved,
And then abandoned at the end of that.
Yeah.
That sounds horrible.
It does. Yeah.
I mean, like that sound. I actually feel you as a kid. Like my parents got divorced when I was 7, so they didn't say like, Brian, you're not good enough. But in my mind, when they did that, I thought, well, no one's there to love me anymore. So I think what I started doing, a little different than you, is I started trying to overachieve, because for me that was my worth. If I could get A's in school, if I could win the science fair, then everyone would at least. Maybe they wouldn't love me, but they would acknowledge me, and then maybe I could have some love, and then maybe I could have some value.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
But for you, it sounds like it's just you're worried so much about being judged, as you should, as a little kid, that you're like, I don't want to do anything, you know? And it sounds like you were really good at what you did, you know? It sounds like, you know, when you were working in the hospitality and for these royals and politicians, you were probably really good at what you did, right?
Yeah.
And so the question is how can we get you to understand you have a natural tendency to not make a move because of that judgment? And how can we get you to move forward even though you're feeling this, you know, rush of judgment?
Is it starting believing myself and trusting myself?
Yeah, and maybe, you know, so, I mean, do we both agree that probably what's holding you back the most is that pain from, as a child, of being judged, abandoned, not loved, rejected?
Yes, yes.
Is that probably the main thing?
It would be the major thing, I think, yeah.
Okay.
It's very, very core to the issue, yeah, definitely.
Okay, gotcha. Have you thought about that before?
Yes, very much.
Oh, very much. Okay, so that's on your mind.
Yeah.
All right. I think what we need to make sure for you is that right now we maybe even assert, I don't know if this is 100% true, but it's probably mostly true, that this is the main thing that's stopping you.
Just want to say I also think too much, actually.
Okay.
I do too much of analysis, and then
Right.
my issue is actually going into action.
Right, good. Well, that's what this process is really good. So this is a 6-step process. I call it resist and transform, because the point is that we got to take action. Otherwise, we just sit in the therapist chair and they charge us 100 pounds an hour for the rest of our life. And all we do is rehash our problems. I'm not a big fan of that. And that's why with psychedelics, and I know we both had experiences in the past, they're great because they tell you, like we're talking right now, look, you have this trauma when you were a kid and that's stopping you. But the problem is once you got the info, now it's time to take action. It's not necessarily time to go do the psychedelic again and get the same lesson over and over again. And that's why our movie was about me integrating these lessons, which is a difficult process. So the next 12 months are going to be hard for you. All right, that's the resistance, okay? That's the resist we're gonna have to fight, all of the tendencies for you not to do what we're gonna talk about today. So, we started with acknowledging, and I really appreciate you being honest. This is good. And a lot of people out there are thinking, Marcos is just like me. I'm a perfectionist, and I'm procrastinating. And again, that's what I asked my student last night. Why does it have to be perfect? And everyone looks at me like I'm crazy. Well, because it has to be great, because I'm always great. I'm like, no, that's not that. You're worried about someone being judged. In order to be successful in life, you have to not be perfect. Like your first job interview is not going to be perfect. My first episode of London Real was horrible. My first public speech was horrible. My first podcast was horrible. My first business was horrible. So you have to go into that lack of perfection. So we started the first step, which was acknowledge where you are. You've been really honest today, and I appreciate it. Next one, I want to visualize your future. So 12 months from now, where can Marcos be in your mind that shows you that you've gotten over a lot of these issues? What's something we can strive for that by getting there means we're no longer being a perfectionist, we're no longer not doing things? So what's something you want? What's something you would be proud of by the end of the year?
Well, I would be happy if I had managed to get things started at that point properly. And
yeah. But I like to quantify.
Let's say, for example, if I want to write a book, I would have a blog, and then I would have written loads of blogs, and it would have been successful and all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you want? Do you want to write a book? What do you?
I also want to write a book.
Okay.
I have ideas around
it.
But
but also I don't want too many ideas.
Yeah.
Because one of the other things that people like you do, perfectionists and procrastinators. I had another guy on my course last night, and he's trying to start 2 businesses at once.
Yeah.
I started yelling at him. I'm like, what are you doing? That's is the saboteur inside all of us. Yeah. You have one that's trying to sabotage you because you don't want to be judged and you don't want to be abandoned and rejected. So some people try to do too many things and then they do nothing. So what I'd really like for us to decide right now, you and me, is what's the one thing that we want to do by the end of the year that is strong and powerful and gets you where you want to be. So if it's writing the book, okay, but what else would you want to do? What's the business you want to go to? Or who's the person you want to be? How do you want to help people? What comes to mind?
Yeah, well, I think of sharing information. I just don't know why, because I follow you, I see all your interviews online with Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, all these guys, Gabor Mate, I love all of them. I read their books and they're amazing.
Sounds like you're also
consuming
do a good
job. Yeah, I consume a lot of
information. Too much content.
But then I see that many things I would like to talk about, it's there already. How can I make it mine? How can I own it and be different, and then people will like it? Because I don't want to be one more. What's the point?
Okay, this is a good question. And again, a lot of my students come across this in my Business Accelerator and my podcast, and they say, one guy, again, last night said, I'm not qualified to be the expert when it comes to being 40 years old and trying to deal with the fact that, I don't know, they're having problems in their marriage. They said, Gabor Mate is better at that. And I said, look, a lot of times people want to learn from someone in their situation, you know? So there's Gabor Mate, but also I would love to listen to a podcast or have a guy teach me who's been there. Hey, this is me, I'm Marcos. I worked in this industry for a long time. I struggle with perfectionism because I fear rejection and abandonment. I'm just like you, and this is my adventure to take all the learnings from Dispenza and Mate and put it together in my system, right? And you could call it your system, you could call it the RISSI system, and be really open and say, look, these are my idols, and this is my journey, and this is, it may be like you, you're like me. You were judged a lot when you were a kid by your parents, your friends, your family. You're paralyzed with perfection, and you just want to take your life to the next level. I mean, this could easily be something that you talk about. How does that sound?
Yeah, it sounds good.
This imposter syndrome is constant, but that goes back to your fear of rejection to a certain extent. So don't ever feel that way. In this day and age, you can make it your own, and you can always give credit to these people. And again, talk about your journey and your process, because your journey is really unique. And we just talked about it in 5 minutes, but I'm sure you could go into moments of your life that were traumatic and deep that you maybe want to unpackage, and it can help other people. So
I'm left with the questions, how much I can open up to the people I'm going to talk to. It's just, again, it's fear of rejection, you see.
Yeah, I mean, look, last year I told the whole world about my heroin overdose to millions of people. I thought my business would suffer. I'd never told my wife of 16 years. I'd never told my stepdaughter. I met her when she was 7 years old. I had to tell her when she's 14. I mean, she was the hardest person to tell. I mean, like, honestly, my wife was hard to tell, but like a little girl that's looked up to you your whole life, I have to look at her and say, I was a drug addict. I mean, and guess what happened? She looked at me and she said, wow, that's really brave of you. I'm so glad you told me. She gave me a hug and she walked out of the room. So your fears are usually that. They're, as my mentor Dan Pena says, FEAR, false expectations appearing real. You think it's going to ruin your life. What it's going to do is it's going to empower you. And whenever you get to where you don't want to do it, think of all the people in the world you're going to help. The more honest you can be, the more people you're going to help. So I would say, think about it. But my experience on London Real has been the more open and honest I can be, the more my life improves and the more people I help, period. In my movie Iron Man last year, John Joseph, tough guy, 10-time Iron Man, lead singer of the hardcore punk band, was homeless on the streets, talked about his sexual abuse when he was a kid, openly talks about it. I mean, if John can talk about it, if I can talk about a heroin addiction, you can talk about this stuff. Always think about the person you're going to help. Whenever you get into this paralysis, perfection, procrastination mode, you're thinking about me, and how other people are going to judge you. Think about the people you're going to help, and you'll move forward. Think about Marcos out there that's 10 years younger than you that you can help. Think about 10-year-old Marcos when he's being traumatized by all this judgment. Think if that little kid could watch you and think, you know what, there's another way. I don't have to worry about all this. That will empower you, all right? So look, we can get into this more, but by the end of the year, I think you should be thinking, I want to have helped significantly 100 people get to the next level in their life, period. That could mean you start writing. I like blogs more than books, because a book, trying to write a book, it's too big. You'll never start. But writing a blog a week about this, getting more and more honest and vulnerable, that's one of the challenges. And I would say 100 people, you've changed their life somehow with your teachings, your products, your broadcasts, your video vlogs. That would be my challenge for you. If you could do that, this would be an amazing year for you. Because by doing that, you're going to fight through all your perfectionism, all your procrastination, and all of, quite frankly, all your bullshit you're telling you. You seem like a really good guy with good energy, and you seem like you want to help people. And so I think you just got to get out of your own way and do it. So that's step one. Step two, purge. This whole purge is part 3 of this process. You got to get rid of all of that negative self-talk going into your head, all of those traumatic memories, which are either true or not. Sometimes they're not even true. We think of them as being true. You know, I recently went home and spoke to my parents about the divorce, and I realized the way I remembered it was actually not what really happened. That divorce actually empowered both of them to become these great parents that made me great. And if it hadn't happened, my mom wouldn't have traveled the world. She wouldn't have taken me around the world. I wouldn't even be in London. So that event was actually the greatest thing that ever happened to me. So you need to purge all of that negative mindset, all of that perfection, all of that paralysis, all of that procrastination, and get rid of any kind of peer groups or people that are enabling you playing small. You need to get rid of all of that stuff. And purge some of your habits, like watching too much content. You know, it's easy to watch podcasts because you don't have to deal with your own BS, all right? So, you know, that's why in my courses, like my Life Accelerator, we do a low media diet, which means you're not allowed to consume media, because when you're consuming media, you're not being with your thoughts. So that, I like meditation. But anyways, you have to come back to me and tell me what you want to purge. Next step is this pay price to action. This is important. You got to do something that's like burning the ships, that says, I'm all in on this new process. So you've got to do something that shows the world and shows you that you're committed. And that's a price somehow. That's a commitment. That's getting rid of something. We just had Matthew in here, and he's literally going to burn his business that is teaching people how to hurt other people, that he doesn't believe in anymore, and he's going to start anew. But he's going to tell the whole world it's over. He's going to say goodbye to his clients. He's going to walk away from probably thousands or tens of thousands of pounds of business. You've got to do something else that's going to get you on that course that you can't go back on. All right?
Got it.
All right, so you got to come up with that. Next, it's like you've got to replace all of those old negative self-talk with new self-talk, and then expect the resistance. So you're going to resist now all of the tendencies to go back to the old you. So first of all, replace. I need new positive self-talk every day. I take action every day. I don't worry about being judged. The whole world loves me because I do wonderful things, period. The world doesn't love me because of what I produce is perfect. They already love you. I produce great things. I change people's lives. That's how I'm judged. And expect to resist all of the stuff out there that's going to bring you back to the old stage. And you're going to have challenges that are going to come to you all the time. So you're going to be wondering a week from now or a month from now, maybe that wasn't right what I talked to Brian about. Maybe I should not do that. Maybe I should go do another ayahuasca experience. Maybe I should go watch Gabor Mate again. No. You have to replace all that with positive habits. What's the blog every week going to be about? How can I get more vulnerable, because you have a tendency not to be? Who are the 2 people I can help this week, however, that are going to get you there? And then finally, you got to get to that goal. I call it slay the dragon. So you got to get there to the end of the year. You got to become that version of yourself. So that's the blog post a week. That's 100 people. You've materially changed your life. You've got to finish that thing, and you got to be held accountable along the way. So tell your peer group, tell your social media platforms, tell everybody what you're doing. And again, make some hard decisions. Like I said, maybe that means, you know, only one episode of London Real every week. Maybe it means no more psychedelic experiences for the year, you know, because it sounds like you've had enough to know where you need to go. There's a time to leave that alone and think, you know, that's just going to scramble my brain. And now it's time to do the hard work in the real world.
Exactly where I am now.
Yeah.
I really psychedelics on the side.
Now
grounded work. Yeah.
Meditate every morning. Look at your positive affirmations. Look at your gratitude. Look at the people you're going to help, and then fight your tendencies for perfection and procrastination every single day. And put yourself real serious goals every week, every month, and find someone that holds you accountable. Whether it's me, your peer group, social media, and let's get to where you want to go in the next 12 months. I know you can do this, but I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be hard. That's why we call it resist and transform, because you're going to have to resist all the tendencies that got you here today. And they're real, man. And your own brain is going to be resisting, because it's going to go back to that trauma when you're a kid and that fear of abandonment, which is one of the scariest things out there, right? Yep. As animals, we don't want to be abandoned because that means you're dead. Yep. But there's a lot of love for you in this world, and there's a lot of people that will love you for everything you bring. So bring that back. I feel a lot of love from London Real and all people like you, and I feel all sorts of love because I feel like I gotta be held accountable every day to show up here and give back to this community, but it feels amazing. So replace that fear of love with all the people you're gonna help. That love is gonna make you feel complete. I really think that.
I hear you.
How do you feel about that?
I feel good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it sounds really assertive to me. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so look,
and
the only thing...
what I take the most is actually to get rid of my fears, to think of people, I can help people.
Right.
And then in thinking of helping people, then I can overcome my fears of rejection and to open up to my friends and my family of who I really am. Yeah.
Look, it's all that the ego is our biggest enemy. So whenever you feel perfection, anxiety, procrastination, you're putting too much emphasis on what you're about to do, as if it's going to define you, because your ego feels that way. As soon as you make it about someone else, and I had a really famous guest that came in here one time, and he was acting really nervous before he sat down. And he said, "Excuse me," and he went to the bathroom, and he came back out 2 minutes later, and he was like, "Let's go, Brian." And I was like, "Okay." And he sat down, and right before we went live, I said, "What did you do in the bathroom?" And he said, "I looked in the mirror, and I said, this isn't about you today. It's not about how you look. It's about how many people I can help with this message." Straight up. So it wasn't about if he slurred his speech or if he told a stupid story. He was like, this is about the 1,000 people that are going to change their lives, or the 1,000,000 people that are going to change their lives. And he went into the show and he crushed it, because he was no longer trying to look cool or look smart or look intelligent. He was like, I don't care if I look stupid as long as I can help the other person out there. So you totally nailed it. Always make it about the other person, make it about adding value, and you're always going to crush everything. A public speech, a one-on-one interaction, a business. If you're always making it about the customer and about their lives improving, then you're going to do great. So the biggest source of your resistance is going to be you going forward. Don't go back into that mindset. Really plan this out, stay focused, get the accountability, fight those negative mentalities, do the purge, and I think you got this transformation, man. Let's do this, all right? Super. Marcos, super.
Thank you so much.
I'm so glad you came here.
Today.
Thanks so much.
I'm glad I came too.
I'm glad you came. And look, thank you all for watching this. If you want to get on this plan for Resist and Transform, I'm posting a bunch of things on the steps, but you kind of watch me go through this with Matthew and with Marcos. Look, it starts with that acknowledgement. Where are you at? Where are those things that are holding you back? It's always you. It's never your boss. It's never Brexit. It's never the economy. It's not Donald Trump. It's not, your
Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro, right? The EU guy. It's or Spain, right? It's not the abuse as a kid. It wasn't that you weren't rich enough. You didn't have the degree. It's always you. We put the constraints in ourselves, and that's been my story with London Real. It was my fault in the first 3 years that I wasn't expanding. It wasn't until I saw what I was doing that I could expand. So acknowledge where you're at. From there, visualize who you want to be. Go really big. Purge everything around you that's not supporting you. Next, pay the price to action. It could mean writing a check to get into some type of a peer group, or it could mean burning the ships, but do something that shows the world and more yourself that you're committed. You got to show yourself that there's no turning back. Next, you got to replace and resist everything that's going to come your way. And then finally, slay the dragon, hold yourself accountable, and complete the plan. And once you do that, you're going to crush it. So Marcos, great sitting there and talking with you.
Deal.
Thank you for tuning into Real Talk. Watch this man over the next 12 months. He's going to do big things. And dude, man, I'm looking forward to it, all right?
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, man. All right.
Thank you.
See you guys next week.